Botswana has enjoyed the reputation of being Africa's fastest growing economy in recent years. This rapid economic growth has, however, presented new economic variables and dynamics. The administration of land in the face of growing demand is but one of many areas undergoing a process of refinement. We explored the various factors with regard to the administration of land and learned the magnitude of the job facing the Ministry of Lands and Housing last week in a lengthy conversation with the Permanent Secretary at the Ministry, Thato Rapaka.
What is it that we want? Do we want shelter or do we want a land?
Our continued discussion tonight on First Issues reveals that the ministry has put in motion some innovative strategies to turn things around and improve both their delivery and their reputation. Welcome back to the show. Tackling issues of land, as with any other example of effective service provision, calls for high levels of productivity, a positive attitude, and the elimination of bureaucratic processes. This is something the ministry has also realized, and in pursuance of this fact, the ministry summoned its various departments to come and demonstrate how they plan to improve service delivery to their stakeholders. It was amazing how various team members at the Ministry of Lands and Housing mini convention in Palape presented thought-provoking solutions which, if implemented, can change not only stakeholders' perception of land allocation and housing in Botswana, but also enhance service delivery. We asked Mr. Rapaka what is to become of this new enthusiasm demonstrated by various ordinary members of his team in making the ministry a better service provider.
I'm very, very happy with the presentations that I've seen today. I'm also happy that at least people are beginning to apply themselves, that is our employees. Because you see, the work improvement team strategy allows officers to unleash their potential. It allows officers to sit down and look at the problem that is probably affecting them within a division or within a department and come up with strategies as to how best they can address such a problem. Now, if you listen to the presentations that we had this morning and this afternoon, a good number of people were presenting different solutions to address the many challenges that we have. But we at the ministry, we are sitting there to look at all this from a strategic point of view, to consolidate all these ideas, to see how best we can come up with the review of our strategic initiatives, and to also sometimes even influence even the review of our laws, because it is through some of these projects that we can actually facilitate the review of some of our laws.
So it will be a case of these learnings being utilized, and it won't be all talk and no action as we've become accustomed to.
These learnings will certainly be utilized. Firstly, like I said, at the departmental level or at the unit level, but more importantly at a macro level, at the departmental level or at the ministry level, where we would now be saying, could these influence the retooling of our processes? Could this influence the retooling of our statutory instruments and so forth? So these work improvement team projects that were presented here today will certainly help us to revisit a good number of strategic initiatives within the ministry.
In an address to Ministry of Lands and Housing staff, Mr. Rapaka mentioned that there is a good unfolding story taking place at the ministry, which we assumed to be the LAPCAS project that we have heard mention of. The acronym represents the Improvement of Land Administration, Procedures, Capacity and Systems Initiative, but what exactly does it entail?
The LAPCAS project is a land registration project. Right now, we have allocated a lot of land at the land boards and through our state land machinery. But at the land boards, such land is not really registered. It is not surveyed. And that is why, as and when people go out to ask for a loan from the commercial banks, they meet a lot of challenges because such land is not surveyed, such land is not registered anywhere anyhow. But even the certificates that we provide to people, yes, those are the entitlement to such land. But at the end of the day, it is not very much helpful in terms of unlocking the economy of this country. Therefore, the LabCast project is a very, very good initiative because we would want to know what land do we have in this country in terms of residential land, in terms of commercial land, in terms of arable land, or even the boreholes that we have allocated around the country. So the LabCast project is really registering the land in the country. It's like an audit that people often talk about, because at least with that we would know who owns what and where. In other words, after the development of the system which is also part of the LabCast project, when I talk of the system, I'm talking of the computer system. Once we have developed that, it will be a matter of pressing the button to check who owns what, where, and when was that land allocated. Even if that land has had some transfers, then we'll be able to track such developments with using that system.
How has the rollout of the LabCast system gone thus far? What have been the challenges and what have been the achievements?
The LabCast project was started in Mogoditsane. A month after its launching in Mogoditsane last year, we rolled it out to the Machem villages in the Kalahati. That is the 4 Machem villages. But then we have also impressed upon the land authorities to start the project rather than wait for the Machem or the Mogoditsane project. And it has been well received by many people around the country. The only challenge with the project is that in those areas where there have been some illegal land dealings, then we are beginning to see people, pulling or dragging their feet in terms of verifying whether the pieces of land that they claim to be theirs has indeed been allocated properly, especially in Mogoditsane, for instance. So half of all the plots that we have surveyed in Mogoditsane are not yet verified. That is where we have a challenge. But we will get there. We'll get there because in other areas, especially in the rural areas, people are verifying their land. There we do not have the challenges because we are working hand in hand with other authorities like the Bohosi, for instance, to assist the people who would be claiming that they have been allocated land, to indeed verify that they have been allocated such land, either by the land authorities or by the Bohosi before the establishment of the land authorities. So that project, the LabCast project, it is progressing fairly well around the country, and we would certainly encourage Botswana to verify their land because it is really for their own benefit. It is better to have a land title and have a new certificate than sit on that land without a certificate that may not be helpful to you in future.
Your closing remarks with regards to the ministry's aim to provide sustainable human settlements in relation, of course, to the current realities we see on the ground.
Sustainable human settlements. That's a vision of the ministry, a vision that inspires us as a ministry, because it is a vision that really tells us that it is only by having properly and orderly developments in our settlements that we can talk of developments in our settlements. Our aim is to start off by preparing the development plans for our settlements. Our aim is to start off by also servicing those areas. Our aim is also ensure that Botswana do get the right land at the right time, at the right places for the socio-economic development of this country. We believe through the physical planning, for instance, we can promote such developments. We can, in fact, promote the allocation of the budgets in terms of infrastructure development in those settlements around the country. And we can only hope that through the engagement of other authorities like the councils, like the traditional authorities, the Bohosi, we can address the challenge of illegal settlements, for instance. We can, in future, have orderly developments in our areas.
Clearly, the ministry still has some ways to go, but it appears as if they are gearing themselves up to tackle their challenges head on. And speaking of gearing up, next on the program, we learn ways in which to maintain health and thus productivity this winter. Welcome back to the program as we continue on a different subject matter in this portion of the show. Winter is undoubtedly upon us. Beyond cold and flu outbreaks, there are less obvious but serious costs associated with this season. Join us as we arm ourselves for winter with health tips from the professionals to ensure that we cut down on costly sick days and are productive contributors to industry and the economy. The urge to stay warm and comfortable indoors and eat and drink more to ward off the winter cold may be powerful to resist. But guest dietitian Ndiko Gidi was at hand to give us expert advice on how to eat a little better and thus reduce the risk of weight gain and the resultant far-reaching repercussions. Good evening.
Good evening, Namitso.
There's a belief that eating heartier or more solid foods keep one warmer in this winter season. Is there any truth to this perception?
It's a wrong perception because this is a time that people just pack up on calories and eat a lot because they feel like they'll get warmer, but then they tend to gain more weight instead. It's a wrong perception. It is not true. But yes, there are certain things that will keep you warm in the winter.
So it's not necessarily heartier, more solid foods, or which foods are these then?
Your soups, your warm soups, your teas, things like ginger, cinnamon, those sort of things will keep you warm in the winter. But it's not necessarily the amount of food that you eat that will keep you warmer in the winter.
Why then do you think there is this perception that stuffing yourself has good benefits and will keep you warm?
Gosh, I don't know. I don't know where people get that from. I think it's just a general misconception that has been going on for so long. I think people tend to use it as comfort. You know, people are all snugly at home under a blanket watching TV, and they feel like if they eat something hearty, you know, it will warm them up. But these are just general misconceptions.
Do you have an idea of maybe the most unhealthiest comfort foods that people go to? Because there's probably quite a range. But which ones would you say are the guiltiest for packing on the pound?
Oh, the hot chocolates, you know, made with full cream milk, with cream on top.
Marshmallows.
Marshmallows for other people, yes. Your Milos and your creamed soups and your creamed spinach and all of those things that are creamed and all that. And that is how people tend to really add on calories in the winter, because they're having all these high calorie foods that are, for instance, if it's a vegetable soup, it's creamed, you tend to think because it's vegetable, it's healthier. But the double cream in the creamed soup makes it more calorie dense. So in that way, people pack up on calories.
Botswana are inclined to go for bomadombi or dumplings or stampa. They honestly believe that these are the kind of things that will keep you warm. How much calories do those kind of foods pack? Where on the scale are they?
Generally, they are packed with calories. Whether they will keep you warm is really a misconception, really. There's nothing wrong with madombi. There's nothing wrong with stampa or dikobe or lehata or whatever you call it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's all about controlling your calories. Calories meaning controlling the amounts, the servings. It doesn't mean in the winter you must have more of these, because in the winter you're going to have more of these and be less active. It's too cold to go, for a lot of people to go out and exercise or go to the gym. So people tend to pack up on these things and become inactive. So in that way they gain a lot of weight.
One may wonder at the science behind foods like ginger and cinnamon and how they work within the body to keep the body warmer.
All of it has to do with metabolism. They affect your metabolism, and in that way, in a nutshell, basically, it turns out to give warmth to the body.
Could you break that down maybe for the layperson? Affecting the metabolism works on warming you up? How exactly?
When you break down food, you generate more energy, and more energy means more heat. So in that way, it helps you keep warmer. Okay, metabolism has to do with breaking down food and all of those things. And in that way, that whole process generates heat. And as a result, you build more energy, you build warmth.
I'm happy to hear that the things you listed aren't actually calorie heavy. They are actually quite healthy things for you.
Yes.
So it is possible to stay warm through what you eat, but not put on the pounds.
Exactly.
But it's really difficult to stay away from what we call comfort food during this season. Could you maybe give some healthy alternatives to the much loved staples for this time?
The other favorites such as your legumes. Legumes meaning beans, lentils, a variety of beans and lentils. They're high in fiber, so in that way you fill up quickly. You're fuller for a longer period of time. So you're not bound to eat so much because you're fuller for a longer period of time. Lots of fruits and vegetables because they are also high in fiber. They're healthier but high in fiber as well, and so you tend to fill up more. I would say capitalize on fruits and vegetables that are in season at that particular time, in that particular environment, and make use of the ones that are in season and cheaper and affordable for you.
There's a lot of hidden calories in the warm drinks. You've mentioned some of my favorites and sort of taken them off the list, but are there healthier alternatives for them?
Yes, you've got your ginger and lemon tea. If you're gonna have Milo or hot chocolate, I would suggest, if it's a favorite for you, have it occasionally and use low-fat milk or fat-free milk instead of your double full-fat milk, or instead of adding more cream to your hot chocolate or marshmallows and things like that. Just use your low-calorie alternatives.
Many people are turning to fat blockers and fat burners to try and reduce the impact of eating unhealthy foods on their body. But have these cheats been scientifically proven to work?
Personally, they have been proven to work, but it's short-lived. There are quick fixes that I personally do not, as a dietitian, I do not recommend, because they do not help people adapt to a healthy lifestyle. And that is what we dietitians advocate for, a healthy lifestyle. You know, your balanced diet, your physical activity and all of that. Those are quick fixes that are short-lived, that are not sustainable, and a lot of times, based on what I see at my practice, people who are on them tend to regain back that weight, even threefold. You know, so they are not quite what we recommend people to take.
Can you give us your final expert advice on how to maintain a healthy weight in this winter season and stay a productive person?
Okay. Eat healthy, load up on fruits and vegetables, lots of fiber from legumes, lots of fiber from whole grains and cereals. In that way, you're limiting the amount of calories that you can take because you're fuller on more fiber. Exercise when you can. Do what you enjoy, whether you do Zumba in the house, whether you dance, but do what you enjoy so that you avoid packing up on calorie and being inactive. So do what you enjoy with your loved ones at home if you do not want to go outside.
It's going to be hard to opt for veggies over that hearty, warm, hot meal on a very cold day.
That is true. But remember, it's about portions and control. There is nothing wrong, once again, there's nothing wrong with having your stampa or your madombi. It's all about portions. But remember, towards the evening, we advise that you eat less because you're inactive in the evening, so you'll less likely break down those calories effectively.
Good evening. A review of last week's stock market performance. The DCI was up 0.8%, whilst the foreign company index, FCI, was stagnant for the week, reflecting very minimal trade of shares on the foreign board. Total turnover for the week was 29.1 million pula, which was a daily average of 5.8 million pula, and the total number of shares traded was 6.8 million. For the year 2014 so far, the DCI is down 1.5% compared to an increase of 16.4% at this point last year. The foreign company index, FCI, is however up 0.14% compared to a dip of 0.95% at this point last year. Total turnover for 2014 is 781.5 million pula, much better than last year's 443.3 million pula, and the total number of shares traded this year, 219.4 million, much better than last year's 164.8 million shares. A look at the exchange-traded funds shows the Better Beta ETF being stagnant for the week and closing trade at 40 pula 85 tebe, whilst the New Gold ETF lost 1 pula 10 tebe to close the week at 108 pula 60 tebe. That was your stock market roundup. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your evening.
We trust that you have found this conversation as valuable as we have and can now commit to taking responsibility for your own health these next coming months. Until next week, Tuesday, from me, Nameto Sibina, the team and our sponsors, First National Bank, we wish you a good night and enjoy the rest of this evening's programming.